Welcome to Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a weekly podcast where Hot Springs Village, Arkansas is the star. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we discuss the history, facts, people, places, events, lots more surrounding Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Visit the website at hotspringsvillageinsideout.com. Tell us about this creature that you've got in your hand.
This happens to be one of our current fosters. We have her mom, and we have this one and the 7 siblings. These are little, at least part black lab. Their mom is black lab, and we're guessing the dad might have been chocolate lab, but we don't know. So this is little Moxie Mountain. All of them have mountain names. The mom is Sugarloaf Mountain, and this is little Moxie Mountain.
And where did we pick up?
Back in a minute to her.
Where did we pick up Moxie from?
We picked her up from the Pine Bluff shelter.
Wow.
She was born in the Pine Bluff shelter. The litter was born in the Pine Bluff shelter. We got them when they were 5 days old, and now they're 3 weeks old.
And still talking.
Talking
so you want to go back to Mommy Moxie?
Talking very loudly.
Yeah, and I told Randy we are not beyond pandering with puppies. We have no bottom level for pandering, do we, Randy?
No, not at all.
No. Hello and welcome to another episode of Hello Huts.
About every third show he has to do that.
I've had it up to every 5th show, Randy. I've done so well till right now. I really have.
Wouldn't go that far.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hot Springs Village Inside Out with my co-host Randy Cantrell. I'm Dennis Simpson, and we have, because we're not beyond pandering, as I mentioned this just a moment ago, we have Miss Donna, actually, ironically, my next door neighbor. So I can wave, Donna. You're over there. I'm over here. Mm-hmm. And Donna has a fascinating story, as does her sister, who I think has a fascinating story, but they have an even more interesting hobby that they go. Well, hi, Miss Donna. How are you today?
Hi,
dear?
how you doing?
Doing wonderful.
It's cold out there, huh?
And I tell you what, 70s a couple of days ago, and now we're back to, the 30s and such,
Right.
I'm outside covering the plants at night and going, not what I had in mind.
Right.
Well, tell us how you came to Hot Springs Village, Donna, because this story changes. You started a little more south here, didn't you?
Well, we grew up in Arkansas. My sister and I, we grew up in Ball Knob, Arkansas, and then spent our teenage years in Texarkana, Arkansas. Both went to Hendrix to start our college careers, and then left and didn't come back for our whole careers. So,
for your whole careers.
I was an English professor at Clemson University for 25 years, and when I retired, and then Connie, my sister, got ready to semi-retire from the CDC, we decided to come back to Arkansas, not to the towns where we lived specifically, but to Hot Springs Village. She, 6 years ago, told the CDC she'd like to work out a part-time deal to work from the lake, and was going to do it for 2 years. So now, 6 years later, she's still working part-time for the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, and used to go back a few times a year till the pandemic, and now everything's remote pretty much there anyway. So she does her hematology, genetics work from the lake for the CDC, and I'm retired.
So now you say Clemson is where you were from?
Clemson University is where I taught for my whole career.
Really? And you taught what there?
I taught English, I taught lots of writing, and also African American literature and other literature, and my late husband was also an English professor at Clemson. Really? So we met at Clemson, and we're the departmental wedding, and raised our kids there.
Holy cow. Randy, you look like you have questions.
Well, I'm curious how you got to Clemson.
Well, I would have taken a job probably anywhere after my PhD, but I was looking mostly in the South. I wanted to stay somewhere in the South, and I happened to have a friend there that had been there for a number of years, but just looking for a good job at a good university in the South, and Clemson was looking, and I went there to run a writing lab and stayed my whole career.
Wow. And how long was your whole career?
Well, I was there about almost 30 years. I taught 25, and I took a year off with each of my sons. So essentially 25 years that I worked there.
Well, and one of your sons, if I'm not mistaken, is actually a professor now. Is that correct?
Yes. Jonathan, our older son, grew up to be a professor also, which we didn't necessarily plan, but he came to it naturally. He teaches film. He has gotten his master's from New York University and is teaching at 2 different schools in the upstate where we lived before. Lives about 30 miles from where he grew up, and is teaching film until he goes back to school next fall for his PhD.
Oh, I didn't know he was going back to school. And I
Yep,
will
he
tell
is.
you, Randy, when he's in town, we end up at the same estate sales looking at movie posters together. And he has the most fascinating collection of movie posters you can imagine.
If you want to know anything about film, he knows everything about film. He is he has a memory that doesn't let go of anything. So he knows film, and he's taught about a dozen different classes already. He teaches whole courses in Steven Spielberg, for instance. He's got
Really?
a course coming up in David Lynch, and that's like his dream come true to teach David Lynch.
Well, and for what it's worth, Randy, Donna will post that we're watching so-and-so movie at so-and-so. She'll post that on social media or whatever. And I'll say, okay, how was it? And then her son may give a review too. And I'm like, I don't know that I see the world. I see the world like Donna sees the world a lot of times. Yeah. He's like, it's dark and moody and whatever. And it was wonderful. And I'm like, oh, it didn't have a very good ending.
My younger son, who lives with us, also loves movies. So we head out to Tinseltown about once a week, except during the pandemic. We've had to cut back on that.
Well, but you typically will post from social media, and I'll go, oh, okay, so how's that movie? So I get a preview. My next door neighbor will update me on stuff.
My sons insist that I post that I'm at the theater. So
at the theater, really?
Last night I didn't post that one, so I'll have to catch up. We went to Dune last night.
So tell me this. So Connie works downstairs, and she still works 6 years after her 2-year retirement,
mm-hmm. Right.
And Randy, we've talked about this before, but the graying of America, somehow we just have this bounce back boomerang thing. And for what it's worth, let me put this in perspective. That way is Donna and Connie, fantastic neighbors. This way is Jim, and I think it's Helen. I keep forgetting her name. I'm so sorry. Lives on this side. And he was a airline pilot, or he was a private pilot for the Dillard's corporate guys, for the big Dillard biggywigs. And he retired, and they pulled him back. And then he retired again, and then another organization recruited him. And I'm like, I'm seeing this whole gray thing go over and over and over and over. Right, Randy?
We're talented.
I never went back. I thought I would probably go back and teach some because I was young when I retired, but never went back. I was raising 2 teenage sons when my husband passed away, so I just stayed home with my sons, and it was the best thing I could have done.
Well, how on earth did you find a home right next to Dennis and Diane?
Just luck, just really extremely lucky. We started looking for 2 houses. We started looking for 2 houses, and then thought, well, eventually we're going to get old, so we might want to have a house. So we got a house that has 2 levels. Connie has her level, and I have my level, and her level doesn't have a kitchen, but she said, I'm retired, I'm not going to cook. So since she's still working part-time, I cook supper. We come up and watch TV on my level. I'm sure Dennis was thrilled. We moved in, we had 7 dogs. and we said, I'll have my 3 on my level. Connie had 4 on her level. And the dogs didn't read the rule book. They just were up and down all day. So we moved in with 7 dogs because we combined our 2 homes.
And Morris the cat. I love Morris. We
had one cat that ran away within 2 days of coming here, never came back. We have one that moved down the street about 3 doors and never came back. And we have 8 cats now, but they are in and out.
Randy, I don't know if I've ever told you this story, and I really hope that Dick is listening. There's a guy 3 doors down, and the cat literally adopted him. He would go down and play with their puppy. They have a little, like a Maltese poo or something, and the cat would play with him all the time. The cat would literally go down the street, get in the front yard, paw at the door until the puppy would come to the door, and then they would sit and play for a while. Mm-hmm. Well, and then when he would take the dog on a walk, Morris, the cat, would walk with him. And I got in a habit where I would tease Dick, and I would say, "Hey, is that your cat?" "Not my cat."
But now he is.
Stays there all the time.
Now he is. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of Christmases ago, I think Morris got a new flea collar or a new collar for Christmas
that we didn't put on.
I think Dick was involved in that. But anyway, every time I see him, he's "Not my cat." I said, "Taking your cat for a walk?" "Not my cat." Anyway, all that.
On the other side of us, we have neighbors that are gone most of the year, which is kind of nice in a way. We have neighbors that are absentee neighbors. And now across the street, we've got a couple who are going to be back and forth. And Ariel, one of our cats, was over there. I said, "Don't believe that cat, because we do feed that cat. That cat belongs to us, but she will come and tell you that Verna was feeding her, and you're supposed to feed her too." But
that is true. That is true. And it's funny. How long have we been here, Donna? I've been here 9 years. How long have you been here?
6 years.
6 years. And Randy, the couple across the lady across the street, Verna, who we dearly love, she was here 6 months, 4 months,
maybe not even that long, I don't think.
And the couple before them was a Pentecostal Assembly of God minister, and he was here maybe a year and a half. we've seen more lake turnover than, the people that lived in this house lived here something like, I think 24 years, and the couple next door was 37. Mm-hmm. So, this is just, it's a tumultuous time. In particular, if you're running part of Rescue Road, I bet it's an interesting time. So Connie, tell us what Rescue Road, I'm sorry, Donna, tell us what Rescue Road is.
Well, Rescue Road is an organization that rescues pets from Arkansas, strays, owner surrenders, and sends them north to Massachusetts to new homes. And it started out 12 years ago. I asked this morning, we have rescued over 7,000 pets, dogs, they're all dogs, and have sent them up to Massachusetts to be adopted. We have them anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months, maybe a couple of 2 weeks or so. Have a group of fosters here, mostly in central Arkansas. Our job is to give them, food, shelter, love, and get them healthy to go up and be adopted.
Now, let me get this from the very, very basic ground. Mm-hmm. So a local pet shelter will pick up animals that were surrendered or found in a ditch, or mm-hmm. You've told numerous stories of a mother dog in the ditch and 5 mm-hmm. puppies or whatever. Right. And so they contact Rescue Road. They contact you. How do they do this?
Well, the organization started in 2012 with 5 shelters. I made a deal with 5 shelters that were the shelters that had the highest euthanasia rate at that time. They were having to put down lots and lots of animals because no one would take them. So they made a deal with those 5 shelters that we would pull our fosters from those 5 shelters. I think they've added 1 since then. And we still primarily draw from those 5 shelters so they won't have to euthanize pets. These are pets that are, like you said, found in a ditch. They're owner surrenders. Wherever they're found by the animal control officer, they're brought to the shelters. And so the fosters here in Arkansas, we pick a dog or a litter from the shelter, bring them into our home until they're healthy, until they've had all their puppy shots, all their vaccinations if they're adults, spayed and neutered, and when they're ready to go, we send them north. And we are some of the few families that will actually, we like to take litters of puppies. Some people don't like to do that for some reason, but we volunteer to take the moms that are pregnant, or we take the ones that have just had their puppies. They like to get the puppies out of the shelters as fast as they can because there's so much disease in the shelters. They want them to be in a safe place. So we bring the expectant mother or the puppies into our home, and we keep the newborns until they're weaned. Then we farm them out to somebody else. We split them up and send them off to somebody else, and they keep them till they're 13 weeks old and have had all their shots, and they're spayed and neutered, and they get on the truck and go to Massachusetts. And then so we have people like us that take in the ones after they're weaned, and have usually anywhere from 1 to 4, and they're a little more active, and so we keep them until they're ready to go, and we take them to the truck and send them north. And lots of people adopt. Lots of people just foster a single dog that's like a stray, just a single dog. We just don't. We have one right now that's She's had one. We had 2 recently that had 1 puppy. It was just one of those odd things. Had 2 moms that had 1 puppy apiece. I'll mention Elle quickly because Janice has heard the story about Elle. Elle came to us from a hoarding situation where it had too many dogs. They couldn't take care of them. Finally, the animal control, the shelter had to go out and just take the dogs away. Elle came to us with 1 little puppy because 3 of her puppies had died. So we had 1 little mom and 1 puppy, and we have her in a room by herself away from our other dogs. If we walked in the room, Elle barked, and she barked. She barked anytime we were in the room with her for 3 weeks. We kept saying, doesn't someone else want to foster Elle? Somebody else may know better how to handle Elle and nobody volunteered for some reason to take Elle. So after she barked us for 3 weeks, we finally decided she wouldn't let us touch her. We had never touched her. So we decided we would just have to try picking her up. So we cornered her, kind of lassoed her like a steer and got hold of her, put her in my lap, and she just sat there. She was fine, but she didn't like to be caught for a while still, but then she got to be the sweetest, just friendliest little girl, but she had never been touched probably. She probably just had been in a cage and didn't know what humans were going to do to her. And she just finally, after she finally stopped barking, she was fine. But she is in Massachusetts now. She's up for adoption. And her 1 little puppy is with a foster in Conway, I believe. And so that little puppy will go north this month. And Elle's up for adoption already. And we have a dog that's with us still. Brooklyn came to us with her 1 little puppy, Bronx. I love those names, Brooklyn and Bronx. And her 1 little puppy that is the only puppy that she had at the shelter, but she may have had others that we didn't know about, but she had 1 little puppy that they weren't expecting, and that little puppy's gone on to another foster. But Brooklyn's one of it. So what happens about 10% of our dogs, they have heartworm, And that's the thing that takes the longest foster, because it takes 3 months to treat heartworm. And it can be very serious, but if you keep them in a home and feed them and take care of them, they can get through it okay. And so she'll be here for another 2 months to go through her heartworm treatment like lots of our dogs do. And then once she's cleared of heartworm, she can go north.
Well, no part of this sounds inexpensive to me.
Well,
I mean, there's medical bills. There's, who pays, who drives the bus, who pays the gas.
Rescue Road covers the expense of it. We get all of the medicines, all the shots, everything that the dogs need till the time they transport, paid for by Rescue Road. So they just give us a big envelope of all the stuff that they're going to need for their medical care, and all that's paid for by Rescue Road. We provide the food, but they do have donations. If people really can't provide the food, they can get some help with the food. So we really basically feed them and give them shelter, so we don't have to do anything about the medical care. When Brooklyn got sick, Brooklyn was spayed a couple of weeks ago, and we came home the next day and she was bleeding from her incision. Took her to Wagon Wheel, our local vet in Hot Springs Village, and she needed a transfusion.
Oh, wow.
And she needed to go to the emergency vet in Little Rock, and they said it would probably be $3,000 or $4,000. And I thought they're going to just give up on her. But Rescue Road said, take her ahead. So I took her, spent 3 hours in the middle of the night at the emergency vet in Little Rock, and they pulled her through. I didn't think she'd ever come home, but they didn't blink. They were hoping to hold it, no more than that. But we have occasional dogs that have parvo and things that are very expensive, but they absorb the cost of all of that. I've never seen them give up on a dog. I love that I thought with Brooklyn they might just say, we can't do that. We're just going to have to let her go, because she had a heartworm. She just had surgery. She was bleeding, and they did get her into their facility at Boulevard Vet Center in North Little Rock, which is our main vet, so they could hold the cost down because they do our pets all the time there. But they didn't blink at paying for her expenses.
And how are they funded? How is Rescue Road funded?
I guess just through donations, I assume, because we have fundraisers and things, but it's nothing that we personally pay to be involved with this. It's just all Rescue Road donations.
Is there an adoption fee for when they get to Massachusetts?
Yes, there is an adoption fee. And you asked about the transport. We work with 2 transport companies, which Rescue Road pays for the transport too. We send a truckload of dogs every Thursday, and then the next week on a Friday. So we send, it's not always the same, but might send 25 dogs per shipment up north. And so we don't always fill up the truck, but they have crates throughout the truck, and they have wonderful guys that drive these trucks, and they drive up to Massachusetts. They go into quarantine actually in Rhode Island for a couple of days. And then we have foster families that are called their northern fosters. We're the southern fosters. We're the SOFOs, and they're the NOFOs, and they take care of them up there until they're adopted. So that by the time they get there, often they have a foster arranged up there, or somebody claims them very quickly. They go into a home like ours, except up north, until somebody adopts them.
Why Massachusetts?
Because the original deal was with a wonderful group up there called Last Hope Canine Rescue. And they made the original deal with Arkansas, with Rescue Road, to be our group we send to. And they have saved over 10,000 animals. They celebrated a couple of months ago their 10,000th placement of an adopted dog. Of course, not all of them obviously come from Arkansas. We've sent 7,000, but they've done 10,000 in all. So they get up there, they go to their foster family, and people literally up there stand in line to adopt these rescue dogs. It's amazing. They couldn't do it during the pandemic. They had to go virtual during the pandemic. But before the pandemic, they would have events, and there would be a line waiting when the door opened to adopt these dogs. We do a passport for each dog. We describe the dog. We talk about, can it get along with other dogs, with cats, with kids, any medical problems. We have 3-legged dogs, deaf dogs, blind, every kind of dog. But some are puppies. They're cute. They're very adoptable. But some you would think would be difficult to place. They place all of these dogs up there, and they can see them online, and then they come to the actual event, and they have to be approved as adopters. But lots of these dogs, it's funny to me, go to homes in apartments in Boston, if you can imagine. We have a fenced-in yard, so these dogs have a lot of freedom with us. And they'll say, is the dog crate trained? I said, no, we don't crate dogs. We don't make our dogs. But people who live in an apartment often have to leave them in a crate during the day. So they always ask if they're crate trained. But, they're so lucky to have these wonderful homes. They go to dog parks to get their exercise. And one of my favorite things about the whole thing is we get pictures back the day they're adopted of them with their new family. And we call them Happy Tails, TAILS pictures. And that's one of the best things, is seeing these dogs in their new homes.
Oh, absolutely wonderful. And there's so many varieties of this. So, and I know that it's a pluralistic world. It's not as we might believe it to be, whatever. But so is it an overstatement to say that there's an abundance of pups in the South and not an abundance in the North? Is that,
We get that question a lot. How come North doesn't have dogs?
Yeah.
A lot of these people, of course, want to get a rescue dog because they want to save a dog. But in Arkansas, we don't do a good job with spay and neutering our dogs. There are a lot of dogs. People think they'll raise the dogs that make money, and it turns out that they can't sell the puppies and they'll have an unwanted litter. Just not a good spay and neutering program in Arkansas, even though there are coupons and there's, it's not that expensive. Some places, all of our neutering and spaying goes on at Arkansans for Arkansas for animals, and they give us a reduced fee, so they do all of our spay and neutering. But people here in general are not good about having their pets spayed and neutered. They end up with lots of stray dogs, lots of unwanted dogs in Arkansas.
How did you get involved in this?
A friend from church was doing rescue for fostering for Rescue Road, and she was still working and I wasn't, and she had trouble getting to the vet to take the pets when they needed to go for different things. And so I became a transport person for Rescue Road. I would just help her get the pets where they needed to be. And then we long wanted to do rescue ourselves, and since I was retired, we just decided to take on our first couple of puppies about 5 years ago, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago. And we've had somewhere north of 150 dogs come through our house since then. And of course, that's a lot, but lots of ours were litters. And we had the 2 litters of one, and we had our biggest litter was 14 puppies in one litter.
Wow. Now, as a neighbor, let me tell you what it's like, okay? So one day you wake up and you go, wow, there's a lot of dogs in the yard over there. I wonder what's going on. And then you talk to Donna in the front yard and she goes, yeah, they shut down Rescue Road, so we can't move puppies for a while. We're kind of sequestered for a while. And what do we have, like 14 dogs for what?
We've had a litter. We had to keep them for quite a while during the pandemic because they had to stop the transports. But yeah, they give every litter a name, and the 14 were the Smith litter because they couldn't come up with enough names unless they named them Smith. But that mom was amazing to me because I'll try to send you a picture of her. She was skin and bones when she came to us, but she had 14 puppies. 13 survived, which is pretty amazing considering she was skin and bones. And I thought, how does a mom feed 14 puppies? She would separate them. She'd take the little runts, the smallest ones, off to a separate place and nurse them separately. So she got all but one of those, which died later actually, through infancy, and she just knew to take the little ones and put them someplace else and feed them. And actually, we've got a dog right now who's got 8, and she separates hers. She takes some of them off by themselves to feed them, even with 8.
Really? Mm-hmm. Really?
People ask us, by the way, doesn't the mom get sad when the mom does not get sad when the puppy sleeps?
Not get sad.
If you've been feeding 14 puppies or 8 puppies, they are ready to see them go. They are not emotionally attached.
if you have 1 child or 2 child and they're incessantly saying mom, 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 imagine that times 14 or 13 or 8, right?
And we can always tell the moms are ready to let them go when they try to stand up and nurse the babies. Because it's not as easy to nurse for the puppies when you stand up, but she decides, okay, we're going to end this soon, so she'll start standing up to nurse them. And we soften food first. We give them soft kibble, and they when they can eat on their own, they go off to other fosters. And the moms have never said a word about them leaving.
So
the other question we get too is, don't you hate to give them up? Well, if you know another litter's coming down the road, what could be more fun than having a different litter of puppies every 2 or 3 weeks? I mean, we have precious puppies, and they never grow up. We just have them, and they're easiest to take care of because the mom takes care of the puppies. We don't really have to do much. We have to feed the mom, and we don't have to do much when the mom's taking care of them.
Diane has a great quote about this, and she says it a lot. We say this about kids and dogs. Donna will come over and she'll have one of the cutest puppies, and Diane will say, they're really cute when they're little.
and we see them in pictures all grown. We just sit one north that we thought was going to be kind of a mid-sized dog. It looks like a Great Dane. Of course, with strays, you don't know exactly how big they're going to be. And this one, they showed a picture of it with the paws on the lady's shoulder like a Great Dane, and we thought that wasn't going to be a big dog. We didn't think. There was a whole litter of those somewhere that are big dogs now.
So it looks like the road will continue for a while to go, is what it sounds like.
Well, we made it through the pandemic, which was good. Of course, they just adapted up north beautifully to doing it virtually, and they kept the adoptions going. They slowed down a little bit, but they kept the adoptions going. And here in the South, we could always use more fosters because we could save more from the shelters if we had more fosters. And we do about all we can. They don't like for us to have more than one litter at a time. They're like just mixed litters, but since we have 2 levels, we can sometimes have like one dog on the top level and the litter downstairs. But it's about like just to foster one dog. They don't have to do it like we do. We just kind of do it on a big scale, but a lot of people just do one dog. And we just tend to do litters.
Randy, I know you got a question.
Born at our house a few months ago, and I'd never seen the puppies born until a few months ago, and it was amazing because we'd had one pregnant mom that had hers during the night at our house, and this one had them when we were watching. It was just amazing, and it was especially fun to watch those puppies grow up and move along, because that was the husky, by the way, Dennis. That was the beautiful husky that had blue eyes.
Beautiful dog.
Yeah. Most of the moms and adult dogs are extremely affectionate because they're starved for affection. Elle was an exception because she didn't want us to come near her, but most of them, they'll crawl on your lap. They'll just be your friend for life. And you feel bad sending them north because you think they must think we're abandoning them too, but they have somebody waiting for them up there that will take them, and they go to good fosters and to good homes.
So every week there's a load that's going.
Every week a load goes, and it could be up to 25. It's not always that many, but a truckload of crates, and they take them north, and they go into quarantine. And then they go to adoptive homes after a day or two.
That's awesome.
Foster homes and then adoptive homes.
Well, I have to give a shout out real quick, if I can, to my partner, Randy, because he never knows who I'm going to bring on screen with him.
Well, but it's all good.
It's all
well,
good.
But the way the story, we buried the lead because, a professor at a major university with a PhD. I mean, I got a lot of questions, but we'll save those for another day.
Well, I was going to kind of come back around to those in just a minute. I still want to say you skipped over the we want to move back to Arkansas, but you didn't mention how you got to Hot Springs Village.
Well, just my sister wanted to live on a lake. We looked up at Bella Vista. We looked around down here. We liked the idea of living on a lake, and we have relatives in Camden, not too far away, and just found it a beautiful place to live, and we still feel that way. We like the village. One thing I like too is that you can be as active as you want to be or as inactive as you want to be. I know there are all sorts of clubs and organizations, and we're not in a lot of those groups, but we know that anything we want to do, you can do pretty much here in the village. Connie's in the Genealogical Society, so she likes to do the family history, and I stay pretty busy with the rescue. And I will put in a plug for another organization I'm an administrator for, the Arkansas Lost and Found Pet Network. The village has a wonderful system called the Lily Alert. If you lose a pet, you can let them know and they'll get the word out that you've lost a pet. The Lost and Found Pet Network is for pets statewide that are lost or found. It's all online. It's all volunteer. It's all free. People let us know when they lost a pet or found a pet, and we try to match them up. So we posted thousands and thousands of pets, but it's a resource outside the village. But also I encourage people in the village, if they lose a pet, to let us know, because we post it statewide, especially if you're away from home and you lose a pet. You're not there for Lily Alert. You just need the word to get out. And so we post these pets and try to get them back with their owners.
Well, if someone wanted to be part of Rescue Road, I'm asking your question now, Randy.
Mm-hmm. Well, they could contact me because I work closely with our group leaders. The person that is head of Rescue Road, you can Google Rescue Road Arkansas, and you'll find out all about Rescue Road Arkansas. The director now is Lauren Pritchett, who is the office manager at Boulevard Vet Clinic in North Little Rock. So she's the center of everything, but we have kind of district people that help us through the medical questions and things like that. But if you Google Rescue Road Arkansas, you'll find all information about contacting the organization. You have to be approved to be a foster, but most of that just means if you have your own pets, they have to be vaccinated and be safe for these dogs to be around. And we mostly have older residents who are not especially welcoming to fosters, but some people have resident dogs that just love having these little animals come in and be their friends for a while, and they move on and somebody else comes in. We have grumpy ones that mostly are just glad when they come on the screen. They're just glad when they move on. Our dogs are always thinking, who's she going to bring in next? But they gradually mostly.
So what would you say is the average length of time that you have a group?
Probably 3 or 4 weeks. The exceptions would be the ones that have heartworm, because they have to be 3 months. And when you come into it, essentially you're going to have them for 3 months. It happened with the one I was mentioning, Brooklyn, that she wasn't tested for heartworm until she was spayed, and we didn't know until then that she had heartworm, so we ended up keeping her longer. But it was fine. We just didn't know until she was spayed that she was heartworm positive, and we know that's a 3-month commitment.
Yeah.
It's
Randy,
great
you got
work.
any-
It's great work. I'm appreciative of. I told Donna before we hit record. I'm involved. I'm on the board of directors for the Westie Foundation of America, which is a nonprofit for White West Highland Terriers, which were dogs that I owned for years, a brother and sister, until we lost them. So, very appreciative of fellow dog people.
Well, I'm encouraging him to get another dog. He needs another dog. And one thing, though, we cannot adopt these dogs ourselves. They won't let us. Up north, they'll let them do what they call a foster fail. If you get a dog in your home and you decide you want to keep it, they'll let you keep it. Here, they insist that we send these dogs north. We had one puppy out of our 150 or so that we really wanted to keep, and they said, no, you can't keep them. So you're not allowed to just decide you can't pass one. They figure if you do that, you'll stop fostering. But we haven't stopped so far. We just keep going, and we just plan if we're going to be out of town. We do travel a good bit, but we just plan. We have my niece here who can fill in if we're out of town.
Well, I do know that there's a lot of different demands and a lot of different timelines as you talk about that. But I also know that do people contact Rescue Road directly, or do they typically go through a shelter, or what's the best way?
They work with Rescue Road directly, or go through someone like me that can just put them in touch with the right people. Because we really don't work as directly with the shelters. We just go sometimes to pick the dogs up there, but we find out about the dogs through Rescue Road. They will have they have an album online which is called Save Me Soon, so you know that these dogs are in need of a rescue right away. So you can always go online, once you're aware of Rescue Road, and see the dogs that are there waiting for someone to once they have a foster, they're part of Rescue Road and they don't give up on them. They once they've got a commitment that Rescue Road is going to take this dog and take care of it, they follow through, and like I said, I've never seen them give up on one unless it was just too ill to survive. We lost one dog in surgery that was a foster of ours, but they don't just give up and say we can't do anything unless they're just too ill to survive.
I'm like you, Randy. This is absolutely, you might say, this is the Lord's work. I mean, this is a higher calling, if you know what I mean.
We
help
decided we started doing this. We're never have a clean house. We're not going to be, we're not going to be a showcase for home living. But once we accepted that the house is not going to be particularly neat all the time. It's more important to us to. My son has even said, "Do you get paid for this?" And no, it's just love of pets. That's the reason we do it. And we know that every time we bring a dog into our home, we're saving its life.
That's true. That's true. Randy, did you have any other questions?
No. I appreciate you being with us, Donna.
Yeah, Donna, it has absolutely been a delight. Thank you. I've wanted to shine a light on this for a while and interview an interesting neighbor. So we appreciate you being with us.
I'm glad to be with you and glad to meet you, Randy. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a podcast where Hot Springs Village, Arkansas is the star. Please subscribe to the podcast. You can do that by visiting our website, hsvinsideout.com, and tell a friend.